Hello and happy Friday. I'm Anson, and we are continuing our countdown of the top 10 Bible stories for a life of faith, according to the kids of Lake Norman Baptist. So we are within the top 5 now. We're down to number 4. I'm excited about finishing out this series together and hearing the stories that are coming up. As you know, we've been keeping it a secret, so I'll give you a little bit of a teaser about what's coming. So last week, we talked about the story of Noah. And of course, most of that story is about what happened on a boat. But a key part of that story that we hit pretty quickly in the sermon was what happened in a tent with Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the theme of the sermon, if you were with us, and if you missed it, click the link in this email and you can catch up on it. But the theme of the sermon was adulting. And I got that from a couple of details in the text that show us how God dealt with people in the world at that time. So early in the story, when it was describing the conditions of the world at the time of Noah and why the flood was necessary, we see corrupt. 3 times it's stated in succession the world was corrupt. And I made the point in the sermon that when you see this triple emphasis like this, it highlights that reality or that truth or that statement as a key part of the story. So the world was corrupt, and we know it because it was stated 3 times in succession. Well, what's God going to do about that corruption in the world? Here came the flood. He wiped out, reset, started over, but we saw that the inclinations of the human hearts were still tainted by evil. So the human heart didn't change, even though Noah and his family, Noah was considered righteous and his family joined in on the ark. The condition of the heart was the same, but what's he going to do to deal with the corruption that still lived in the human heart? He introduced a system of accountability. And in a very parallel way, as the text is describing how God would deal with the world after the flood, accountable, in a distinct 3-part succession. So it highlights that God was going to bring a system of human accountability to deal with the corruption that lives in the human heart. And it was very basic at that time, but on down the line, about 1,000 years later, we would get the Mosaic Law, which would give a lot more detail, a lot more meat on the skeleton of human accountability. And then ultimately Jesus would come. And the law of love, as the New Testament talks about, which is based on the heart of the Old Testament law, the 10 Commandments, and it's applied in all of Jesus' teachings and the teachings of the New Testament. And so within that, it's can be summarized as a system of accountability and how to relate to God and how to relate to the other creatures on our planet, between humans and animals and everything else. So accountability was introduced, and it's this form of adulting, how to be a grown-up, how to be accountable and hold others accountable in an appropriate way in the world that we live in. This next story actually has some of the results of that accountability. We see accountability throughout the story that we're going to talk about, number 4 in our countdown. And I'll give you a little bit more. So it's accountability about how we use power. Whatever level of power that you've been given in your life, you and I are accountable for how we use that power. It's also a story of accountability for how we use the opportunities that we've been given. Galatians 6 talks about anytime we have the opportunity to do good, we should do that. And so within this next story, we see some accountability around the opportunities that we have in life. Reward for doing it well and consequences for not taking the opportunities to do good. So power, opportunity, accountability, it's all baked into a really exciting and dramatic story that I'm excited to share with you this Sunday. So I hope you'll join us. Don't miss it. In case you missed it, we're going to review this story. There's a lot of details, as there are in all of these stories. As we peel it back, there's a lot to see that you might have missed. If you've heard this story only in a childhood version, or even if you've read it, there's so much here. So excited about it. Looking forward to it. Hope you'll join us this weekend in person or online if you can't make it. I look forward to seeing you then. But until then, have a great weekend.